Welcome to Season 4 of the Changing Earth podcast with Sara F. Hathaway, blending survival fiction and fact to bring you entertaining education that will help you dream, survive, and thrive. And now, here's your host, Sara F. Hathaway.
Welcome to the Changing Earth podcast. This is episode number 133, Season 4, Episode 9. So I got some great news today. The audiobook codes for Battle for the South have arrived finally. So there's 5 ways that you can go ahead and enter the contest for the audiobook giveaway. I'll be choosing them on February 13th and announcing them on Valentine's Day. So it'll be a nice little Valentine's Day present for everyone who wins. And I got about 20 or so of those codes to give away. So super exciting stuff. 5 ways you can enter that contest. You can join the Changing Earth newsletter over at www.author.sarafhathaway.com. Sara is S-A-R-A, F like Frank, Hathaway. So www.author.sarafhathaway.com. Go ahead and join the Changing Earth newsletter over there to get entered. You can also like my Facebook page. Everybody who likes my Facebook page between now and February 13th will be entered into the contest. So head on over to Facebook, look for author Sara F. Hathaway, and like my Facebook page. You can also comment on the Facebook post that I did over on Facebook. I did a special post for the giveaway, and if you comment on that post, you will be entered for the giveaway. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel. I have a YouTube channel over on YouTube. You can look for author Sara F. Hathaway, or you can look for The Changing Earth, and you're going to find my YouTube channel where I post all of my podcast episodes. So everybody who subscribes to my YouTube channel between now and February 13th will also be entered in the giveaway. And then the final way that you can do it is I made a blog for the giveaway, and if you comment on that blog, you'll be entered. And I'm telling you what, I don't usually get a lot of comments on the blog, and I usually reserve about 5 codes for there. So if you go over and comment on the blog, chances are that you're probably going to win. So that's just like your little sneak peek to how can you absolutely win. And so I'm not saying that happens every time, but that's usually a pretty good way to become a winner for sure. And you can go ahead and do all 5 things, and I will go ahead and enter your name 5 times for each activity that you do. So what has Sara been up to? Sara has been taking care of sickies, a lot of sickies around the house. So as everybody knows, we've had the flu and colds come through across pretty much everywhere. So we've been dealing with that. The little man's been doing pretty good this year, but he got pretty messed up this last go around. So we also harvested about 6 ducks last week. We just went ahead and pulled the breasts and the legs off. And then now I'm experimenting. I brined mine first, so we'll see how the flavor is. And then I have some friends that are brining theirs after they freeze it. So we'll see if there's a difference in flavor, anything like that. Some people brine it, some people don't. So we'll see how it all turns out. It was our first round of ducks that are all farm raised, so it was pretty easy. You just cut the heads off, and then rather than plucking the whole bird, we went for just taking out the breasts and the legs. We've also just been playing airsoft, doing firewood, just having a fun, I'm working on a project that I haven't announced yet, and then the Self-Reliance Expo is coming up, so I've been putting together the survival panel there and just having a lot of fun. This week on the Changing Earth podcast, Master Sergeant Bennett arrives in Austin, and Dexter arrives shortly after. Dexter uses his skills to kind of become the gray man and blend to get into places where he wouldn't normally be able to go. So here to talk to us today about becoming the gray man is Dale and Lisa Goodwin from Survivalist Prepper. It's always fun to have Dale and Lisa on my show. Absolutely love them. My good podcasting friends that I've been friends with for a long time now, and I get to go out and see them in Denver in September when I'm out there with the Self-Reliance Expo. So that's going to be a blast, and just can't wait to do that. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into battle for the South. Chapter 9. Traveling south on what used to be Highway 79, Master Sergeant Bennett couldn't believe this pile of ruins used to be the capital of Texas. Navigating over piles of rubble that the fighting had left behind, he found remnants of Interstate 35 and headed south. He would only be able to go as far as the ruins of the University of Texas in Austin. Then he would have to find lodging and try to gather information from travelers. This half of the city had been left to the thieves and scoundrels of all types. The federal government had little use for it, except to keep the defiant people of Texas in their southern territory. If the militia continued their dealings on time and stayed put, the federal forces cared little about them. The feds had their main concentration of soldiers located in Dallas and scattered forces south of there. The mercenaries also had a large base in Dallas where they were deployed to fight southern skirmishes on the border Bennett would soon be approaching. Corporal Shaver noticed the people on the street eyeballing the Jeep as it passed by. He whispered to Master Sergeant Bennett, "If I had the resources, I would round them all up. I bet most of them should be in a prison camp anyway." "That's enough, soldier," Bennett reprimanded him. "We need to blend in and not make waves. There's no law here." The ruins they were navigating sat on the free border. The fighting between the mercenaries hired by the feds and the militia here devastated the city. The leaders of the armies finally agreed on Highway 290 as a permanent border west of Austin and Highway 71 as the border east of Austin. Inside the city, the militia had taken a point of the Colorado River between Highway 1 and Highway 183. The main gate was located there. The militia didn't have the manpower to guard the entire border, so they lined it with landmines. Very rarely did anyone tempt their fate traveling through that area. Bennett directed the Jeep through an old parking lot that was full of tents with merchants peddling anything they had. The building had old letters on it. Some were hanging off. Bennett read, "Om Epot." Blue spray paint on the side read, "Boarding House." Most of the building had been destroyed. The remaining portion was a vital resting place for travelers moving in and out of the free zone. "This is it. Private Moore and Corporal McClintock will meet us here," Bennett informed them. "We're staying here?" Corporal Smith wondered nervously. "That's right. Go get us some beds, boy," Bennett ordered. "Yes, sir," the corporal answered as the Jeep came to a halt. He returned in a panic. "They are full, sir," the corporal informed Bennett. "The man said they don't house merc scum." Bennett's vein in his forehead bulged as he stormed through the door and approached the man at the desk inside. The man's eyes were as big as saucers behind his glasses when he saw Bennett's massive frame enter. Two large men stepped forward next to the desk. "We need 5 beds for a week," Bennett demanded. "As I told your lackey, we don't house merc scum," the man replied, looking back at his papers. Bennett slammed his hand on the desk, causing the man to jump and the other 2 men to approach him. "So, I stole a merc Jeep. Does that make us mercs?" Bennett thundered. The man stared hesitantly at him, considering his story. Then he looked to one of his guards. "Escort this man out." The man approached and laid a hand on Bennett's shoulder. Bennett reacted in one swift move. The man retreated with a broken arm. "Would you like to have 2 bodyguards with broken arms?" Master Sergeant Bennett asked the skinny man behind the desk. The man stammered. "Those 3 bunks in the corner are available," he replied, with a wave of his hand. "What do I owe you?" Bennett asked. "What do you have to offer?" the man wondered. "How about 1,000 rounds of 9mm ammo?" Bennett offered. "Yes, sir, that will do quite nicely." "Stole it with the Jeep, did you?" the man suggested sarcastically. "Yup. I'll have my boys bring in your payment. Half now and half when we leave," Bennett announced, as he pushed the other bodyguard out of the way and headed for the bunks. Dexter and Johnny arrived the next morning, and Trucker, Dexter's fierce-looking Rottweiler, greeted Bennett affectionately. The men spent the next couple of days exploring town and recording tactical information. If Bennett could extract Vince and Erica from here, he would. But he was more confident that he would have to pull out to Dallas and lay a trap where Erica's mother should have been. Dexter had become a stealth fighter. He favored the use of silenced sniper rifles and throwing knives. Trucker was his constant companion and ever-vigilant guard. He had the ability to send Trucker out to the edges of town where the other mutts that survived on the fringes of society moved about freely. Without his animal, Dexter could blend into any situation and often moved in and out of enemy territory silently. If backup was needed, Trucker was there. On this occasion, he spotted an electrical crew. They were moving huge coils of wire across the border. Waiting patiently in the distance, Dexter finally saw his moment. One of the workers had left his hat lying in the cab of one of the trucks. Dexter grabbed it and put it on. Just like he was one of the crew, he walked up to a huge coil of wire, picked it up, and went right through the gate. He followed the man in front of him and stacked it on the pile. Then he removed the hat and slowly exited down a row of supplies. On the other side of the gate, it wasn't too much of a challenge to find the central hub of activity. He made his way to an old college. The sign read St. Edward's. He could enter the grounds with the crowd, but inside there was a white building where the guards stood at the ready. He knew this must be where the governor had set up shop. Using all his stealth abilities, he blended with the crowd and circled the building. He faded into the background, watching every window of every building carefully. Then he saw them, his parents, kissing in a window. It brought tears to his eyes, and he wanted to run to them and hug them, but there was no way to approach them with all the guards at this location. He whistled Trucker to him and tucked a carefully crafted note into his collar. He slunk back through the gates alone before night fell and met with Master Sergeant Bennett. "They're at the governor's compound, sir," he told Bennett. "Where is the governor held up?" Bennett wondered. "The old St. Edward's College, sir," Dexter responded. "Are you sure they were there? You saw them?" Bennett asked. "With my own eyes, sir. They are there," Dexter responded. "But the whole place is buzzing. There's something going on. They are mobilizing, sir." "So soon? Erica and Vince just got there. I thought they were going after your grandmother, not mobilizing with the militia resistance." Bennett was confused. "They're on their own, sir. I think they are trying to get help," Dexter retorted, knowing his parents' pattern. "Why didn't they just talk to you, sir?" Dexter asked hesitantly. They had a long history together, and Dexter knew his mom and dad trusted Master Sergeant Bennett completely. "I don't know, Dex," the Master Sergeant lied to the young man, feeling ashamed that he had pushed Erica away. "They just up and left. I'm as baffled as you are." Dexter knew this man well and didn't believe his story for a second. There was something going on here Bennett wasn't telling him. "Do you think we can extract them?" Bennett wondered. "The 5 of us?" Dex questioned. "No way. Not unless they walk through those gates on their own accord. I think you are right. We should pull back to where my grandma is and get them there." He was worried about his parents, but longed to see his grandmother again. They had been so close for so long. These last few years without her had been miserable. "And Dex?" "There's one thing I didn't tell you," Bennett added. "Only one?" Dex questioned to himself. "What's that, Master Sergeant Bennett?" Dex wondered. Bennett knew the boy would be ecstatic to see his grandmother, and pondered if he should tell him the truth. But he also knew that Dexter would probably make contact with his parents, if he hadn't already. He knew where Dexter's loyalties lay, and was sure he would tell his mother. "Great job today, soldier. You're one stealth machine." Bennett chickened out and lied again. Dexter just stared at him. "Why won't he tell me what is going on?" he screamed in his head. But "Thank you, sir," was all he said. In the morning, the sky was overcast, and the wind blew fiercely from the south. It was obvious a big storm was headed their way. After eating breakfast, Trucker returned to Dexter's side. Dexter slowly washed his hands and returned to the solitude of his bunk. He found a reply note tucked into the small case on Trucker's collar. "Hi, Dex. Wondered how long it would take you to find us. We're headed out to help in Houston, then coming back for Grandma. Lots to talk about. Don't trust anyone. Stay vigilant. I love you, Mom." He sat back and mused on his parents' actions. He just couldn't figure out why they had not discussed this with Master Sergeant Bennett. It was such a huge risk they had taken. Why, he wondered, to help strangers in Houston and leave my brother and my grandparents? Master Sergeant Bennett came looking for Dexter. Johnny was in tow. "What's the scoop, Dex?" Bennett wondered. Dex wasn't sure how to answer. His mother would not have put the line about not trusting anyone in the note if she had not been worried about Bennett's loyalties. "Trucker's back. No new news. They are headed to get my grandma, so I say we go there," he replied tentatively. He needed to formulate a plan B, and this would buy him some time to figure out what the heck was going on. Bennett left to go round up the corporals, and Johnny remained. What did the note say? Johnny wondered. He knew his friend too well to accept that explanation to Bennett as truth. It's a classic move, Dex leveled with his buddy. She's always out to help everyone but herself. I guess they're headed to Houston first. Why didn't you tell Bennett that? We might be able to get her there with boats, Johnny said. Why didn't she talk to Bennett to begin with? And why is he out here chasing her? None of this makes sense, and this will buy us some time to figure it out. Plus, I want to see my grandma again, Dexter explained. Why are you telling me then, if she told you not to trust anyone, Johnny teased. Because you're too stupid to do anything about it, dork, Dex teased back, catching Johnny up in a headlock. The two young men scuffled in play while Trucker danced around them, barking. Besides, we'll get some downtime in Dallas, Dex added as they stood bent over, catching their breath. Sounds good to me, bro. I've heard the chicks there are banging hot, Johnny agreed. Bennett came back into the boarding house. He was amused by the young men's scruffy appearance. Ah, to be young again, he reflected. The corporals were on his heels, eager to back their gear and leave as well. There's a bus headed for Dallas leaving in 10 minutes, Bennett addressed the young men, handing them the tickets. Yes, sir, the young men replied with winks. Bennett noticed the interaction, but passed it off as the goofy behavior of young men. Unsure why Bennett and Erica are at odds, Dexter opts to keep this new information to himself. But he gathered this information by becoming what we call the Gray Man. And here to talk to us today about what that means and how we can apply that in a survival situation is Dale and Lisa Goodwin. Dale and Lisa Goodwin are the producers of The Survivalist Prepper. In early 2013, Lisa and Dale decided to create survivalistprepper.net and become a bigger part of the preparedness community. They're not the overboard tinfoil hat-wearing conspiracy theorists. They're just like you are, everyday Americans that enjoy the freedoms that this country offers. Lisa is more of the prepper and Dale's more of the survivalist or outdoor type, and they write articles ranging from first aid to food storage to primitive and wilderness skills, basically anything that involves preparedness and survival. Let's go ahead and welcome Dale and Lisa to the show. Today, I am back with my good friends, Dale and Lisa. Dale and Lisa Goodwin, thank you so much for joining me today. Always my pleasure to have you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always fun for us to be on. It's kind of just, I know it's an interview, but kind of for us, it's just a conversation.
We just get to talk with our good friend, Sara.
Right?
Yeah.
It's just a good excuse to get together. I love it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm like, yay, meeting with Dale and Lisa. So today we are here and we are going to focus on what it means to be the Gray Man. And in this chapter of my book, Master Sergeant Bennett and Dexter are attempting to gather information about where Vince and Erica are at. And so Dexter goes into the Gray Man role and he's able to get in behind the scenes where other people might not be able to through the disguise. So they're doing maintenance and he grabs somebody else's hat, puts it on, grabs a coil of wire and just walks in like he's supposed to be there. So it's a great way to just blend in, and it really got me thinking about the Gray Man, and I know you guys talk about it a lot on Survivalist Prepper. So what does the term Gray Man mean?
In one word, for me, it's unremarkable. It's not being noticed. It's kind of blending in with the crowd. That to me is what, when you're thinking about Gray Man, it's not necessarily, I mean, at times it could be the costume and the stuff like in your book, but at times it could just be being so unremarkable that nobody pays attention to you.
Absolutely. I agree. A great
Nothing,
way
Lisa?
to become the Gray Man is nowadays, nobody wants to look at a homeless person, Everybody wants to
Right.
stare at their phone and look away. So if you ever had to, kind of blend, you could always do the homeless dress, and then people are like, they don't even want to look at you anymore.
Yeah, and it's being unmemorable. You don't want anybody to even remember that you were there. You're
Right.
invisible.
Yeah, when I was a kid, and I was, without knowing it, I was basically the Gray Man because I was the quiet kid that nobody ever thought was going to do anything wrong, and just a good kid. And the behind the scenes, my older brother got a lot of attention, my younger sister got the attention, and I just kind of blended in, which was good and bad. Is good for me, but it ended up getting me in a lot of trouble because because I was under the radar. So I basically did whatever I want, and not all the time. That was not good all the time.
Right?
But it's in regular life, we're kind of taught to be remarkable and stand out. You go to a job interview, you want to be able to stand out and explain why you're so great. But in a situation like an SHTF situation, you don't want to. So looking like the homeless person, like you mentioned, if you're in a SHTF situation and you've got all your preps and all of that, you're good to go on food and everything. You still have to play the part of, it's to some extent, or depending on the situation, but you still have to play the part of that starving person or that person that doesn't have a lot. Otherwise, you're going to stand out.
Right. Yeah, you're all
And
nice and clean, like a new penny, and
yeah,
well fed, and everybody else is like gangling around you. You're gonna get noticed. They're gonna be like, "Hey, how are you guys staying clean and well fed?"
yeah. And that doesn't mean starve yourself, but maybe go to the thrift store and buy some clothes that are a size too big. That way they
Oh, there you
look
go.
baggy on you.
Yep.
Stuff like that. If it's a situation where there are food lines and it's safe to actually go to the food line, maybe you want to make your presence known there. That way people say, hey, I've seen Dale here before. He doesn't have food. But if say there's food lines and everything, and 6 days, 7 days later, they're like, these people are never here.
Yeah, right.
Where are they?
Right. Why
There's
are they eating still? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. And there's also in this article I wrote in the past, being the gray man is, I talked about there's prepper hate, and prepper hate is not necessarily hate per se, but when people are, say they're standing in these food lines and saying it, or they find out you have food, there's this mentality they have that, hey, that's not fair that you have this and I don't, or you probably stole this. You probably stole that food, so they try to justify taking what you have. So
Right.
that's a reason to be the gray man as well, because you don't want to give away your cards.
Right. Well, and even that, I mean, even if it's not from the prepper hate standpoint of view, it's like, you got food and my kids are starving.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
and
I don't
yeah,
really
as soon as
care
they
how
find
he
out,
got it, where it came from. I'm coming for it so I can give it to my children.
yeah, you've got two choices. You can share with me. You can feed the stray cat, or
Right?
I'm coming to get it.
Yep. It's like, oh, die of starvation or die getting what you need.
Well, and a lot of times in situations like that, if it was something catastrophic that happened, people panic. So people in a crowd, they panic, and
Yeah.
and even let's say that there is enough food, but they do have to stand in the food line, but they know that you have something, they're still going to come after you. There's in groups of people feel like they're invincible. They can do anything. So
Right.
if you become a target, then regardless if there's food or not, people are going to come after your stuff and what you have, and then it's probably going to put you in a not very good situation, and you will be on the food line.
They can probably rally the mob to like come and get you,
Right.
too,
Right.
at that point, right?
Yeah, people love drama, and even if there's not drama, you know that there are going to be people that are going to create it. So you don't want to be a part of that.
Well, and when you get these crowds together, it's like the brain cells, or the capacity just decreases with every person you add to it. So they just get dumber and dumber the more people in a group. So
Right.
all it takes is one or two people to bring up an idea, and then everybody just kind of, like sheep, follow the herd. Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's go do that. Something they wouldn't do on a regular any other day.
By themselves, there's no way they would have done it. But now that we've got everybody else with us, all right, let's all go do it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what are some things that we need to look out for that's going to really, cause people to have an impression? So, for example, I'm really short, I'm not a very tall person, and I'm pretty loud. So those are things that, people are like, I remember that little girl, So, or very tall people. My survival instructor was a super tall guy, and it made it really hard for him to just blend in because he was so tall. So there, there's either end of the spectrum there as well. So
Yeah,
what do you,
I think of Lisa's friend's husband, who is just like a giant wrestler, Amish looking guy, just huge dude. And it would be pretty hard for him to be the gray man because you're just going to stand out. But like me, I'm average height, I'm average build. It would be
right,
pretty easy for somebody like me. So you're kind of stuck with what you have.
But
right.
there's
So
ways that you can help with that too, just by like what you said about pulling a hat down, having it in your, not making eye contact, even though I think it's important to watch everything that's going on. I don't think it's a good idea to make eye contact with people because, like you said, we're dealt the cards that we are,
Yep.
and we can't change our height. We can't really change our build, but we can camouflage what we do have, not standing out, like Dale said, with, buying clothes or saving clothes that are too big. If you don't necessarily have to go out and buy clothes. I could put on a pair of his pants or his shirt. Just something that's going to help me to blend in. Probably not a good idea to wear your stiletto heels and your
right.
your hot pink racing outfit or something, because you are going to stand out.
Well,
Yeah.
that depends on whether you're starving and you're looking for some quote unquote work,
Oh, jeez. I don't
We'll save
think
that
so.
for you, Dale.
Uh,
You get to wear the hot pink
I'm not
jogging
wearing my
outfit.
stilettos.
Yeah,
heels to
we got
heels.
Dale in the thong out there.
I don't know. We're going to be starving. We're not going to make much money doing that.
But if
We'll
you
make
have a big
side-
group of like 10 to 12 people and you have two that have, the height or the build that's going to be standing out, then probably those are not the people that you want to send into the food line,
Right.
Or maybe
Yeah.
they are, because you want people to remember, hey, he was in
That's
the line.
true.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of along those same lines is why wearing sunglasses is important, because if you're talking to somebody, say you have to talk to them, people are going to read you. They're going to read your eyes. Your eyes give away a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have those sunglasses on, if you have to lie about something, it's not going to be so obvious, or they're not going to think you are when you're actually not, because they can't see your eyes and they can't read you. So just having sunglasses is a great way to disguise not only just being the gray man, but if you're, in a situation where you have to talk to somebody, or you have to basically talk about how you don't have any food, at least that way they can't look you in the eye and try to figure you out.
Oh man, that's a good idea, because I'm the worst liar in the world. It's like written across my forehead in neon lights. I'm just like, I don't have any reason ever to lie, So
Well, and unfortunately, in that situation, I think you would have to.
Yep.
So you literally have to justify it to yourself of why you were doing it, because this could be your family's, lives at stake. So I think in that instance, it might make it a little bit easier. But at the same time, you also want to probably practice doing that. I wouldn't make a habit of it, but, maybe do a little role playing with, somebody that is in your group or somebody that's a part of your family. And call each other out. If you can tell that someone's lying, you need to learn to pay attention to the little nuances that happen when someone's lying. They're fidgety. They can't make eye contact with you. They're, they
learning
stutter.
people's tells.
Yeah. Yes,
Yep.
exactly.
Yeah.
And on the other
liar's
side
dice.
of
More liar's dice.
Yeah. Yeah.
that, kind of it all depends on who you are. Because on the other side of that, my son could
Oh, he's a master.
go out and he'd make all these people feel so sorry for him. They'd give him their last can of beans, because he just and then he'd come home and
Fletcher
act
could
it.
probably do that too, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm always like, you're just so gonna be a politician, dude.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Well, and that's probably a good skill for someone in your group to have.
Yeah.
You want to have someone like that, because you look at him and he can be lying to you. Telling you anything he wants, and you're like going, okay, I want to believe him, because he's just so sincere.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly how Fletch is.
And I think one more point on this whole thing too that I can think of is just, and this sounds kind of rude, but shut up and listen.
Yeah.
Most people don't listen to kind of understand what's going on. They listen to reply. So if you're not listening to what's going on and what they're saying and what they're doing, and you're only thinking about yourself, you're not going to get the whole picture. So you need to understand what's going on, maybe listen to other people around you, what they're saying, all of that stuff. So I think being quiet, that's how I got away with it when I was a kid. I was just a quiet kid. But I guarantee you, all that stuff was sinking into my head, and I knew when I could, when I couldn't. I knew what to say when I didn't do what they thought I was going to do. And I got in
Right.
trouble.
Uh-huh.
So all of that stuff, yeah, just listen. I mean, that's one of the most important parts is pay attention. Situational awareness and operational security are also big parts of this because it's the things we do on a daily basis that could put us at risk and make us not you're not so gray. You might think you're being the gray man, but if somebody knows all about you because you do this on a daily basis or you do
Right.
that,
Yeah.
you know,
Every
it's
day
just
at
gonna
9:00, you walk down to, so and so, and then you do that, and they're out there watching you. Mm-hmm.
yep. Yep.
Makes sense.
Yeah, go to work the same route every day or do the same things every day. Yeah. And granted, that's not an SHTF situation, but in an SHTF situation, if you keep that routine, every morning you cook at exactly the same time or those cooking smells, that's another thing to talk about with Gray Man.
Mm-hmm.
If you're cooking and there's people starving and
They're gonna smell it.
that stuff's wafting about, yeah, they're coming. You're going to
Far
have some
away,
people
too.
knocking on your doors.
Yeah, I think how far did they? There was like they've done studies to say how far barbecue smell will travel, and it's far.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so like bacon,
Depending on what you're cooking,
Yeah.
spicy stuff and
yeah, it
Well, in the
travels.
area that I'm in too, on the mountaintop, like the chickens, even,
Yes.
babakin up here, that it would
Yes.
just travel for a long way across the
Yeah.
mountainside. So it's like, all right, if something goes down, bye-bye, chickens. I'm
And-
leaning on my ducks.
Yeah, and the same thing with light too. If you've ever been up in the mountains camping,
Yep.
you can see somebody's flashlight or a campfire miles and miles away. And if in an SHTF situation where there's no light or anything, and you're this beacon on the side of the hill,
Right?
that's a point. Hey, let's go that way. To people who may be searching or whatever. So light, sounds, smell, all of that stuff is important when you're trying to maintain the gray man, trying to stay out of other people's business, not necessarily in the scenario like your book, but trying to stay away out of that
Right.
stuff.
Right. Yeah, smell can be a big thing because, sometimes when you meet people, you're like, wow, they smelled really good, or wow, they didn't smell really good, right?
Right.
It's just that
Yeah.
trigger that you hit in your brain to go, oh, oh yeah, I remember that person, man. They smelled awesome, or not so much,
Right. That's another part of
There's
it.
that dude. Ooh, stay away from him.
Oh, there's
Right.
that Dale guy again. I even remember his name because he smells so bad.
Or
Right.
kind of maybe they got bad breath. They smell like lunch, and you're
Yeah.
like, hey, that dude smelled like freaking bologna.
Yeah, or
Where did you
onions
get
or
bologna?
whatever. Yep. Yeah, we used to have this goalie that we skated against, and this guy, he never took his hockey gear out of his trunk. He just took it off, put it back in his car. California, 110 degrees outside, right? So his gear's just baking in his trunk. And he goes to play goalie. Nobody wanted to shoot on him because he smelled so bad you didn't want to skate in that close. So I guess it was a good defense as well,
Yeah.
And how long ago was that you worked or played hockey with
At
him?
least 10 years ago.
Okay, so that was 10 years ago, and
Yep.
you still remember that.
Yep.
So
And if I
that
smelled him, I would be like, oh, you're the dude who doesn't take your
Yep.
gear out of your car.
Yep. So I mean, that just brought back all kinds of memories for you from a smell from 10 years ago. So just think if something happened.
I remember you halitosis breath.
Yep. Seriously. The
But-
olfactory is very, very ancient
Yes.
nerve center. So it hits to your brain really powerfully.
Yeah. So those are the things to keep in mind that you don't want to stand out.
Yeah, if
Mhm.
everybody's walking around smelling like BO and nastiness and you're all like fresh and you're smelling of shea butter, you
I won't
might
be.
stand out. Oh, I love that shea butter. Oh my
Oh, I
gosh,
know.
it's so
I know.
nice.
He's like, I won't be. I'm like, oh heck yes, you will be.
Yeah,
smelling
I'll
like
be
that.
stocking that shea butter. I'm telling you what.
I think it's also important for people to kind of differentiate between like being the gray man these days, like with your
Yes.
prepping and everything,
Yep.
and how it applies to us these days and how it
Mhm.
applies in an SHTF situation, because they're completely different.
It's
Like
true.
I had mentioned earlier, the situational awareness, operational security, all of that is really important now, even when it comes to just our neighbors. If we've
Yeah.
got say we get long-term food or we get packages at our front door every day, our garage door stays open and they can kind of glance in and see everything we've got. That's not being the gray man. Now, in an SHTF situation, you're not worried about that. You're worried about other things like we talked about earlier. But
It's true.
Well, and I mean, that's everybody is, so caught up with keeping up with the Joneses. You got to keep up or have, the best yard in the neighborhood or the best stuff. You have the newest cars. You have basically you're advertising to everybody what you have.
Right.
And even in a non-SHTF scenario, even just every day right now, that's not really a good idea. Same thing with when you have your fancy car and you have, the little stickers on the back, the family stickers depicting each person in your family.
Right.
So you're showing them what you have as far as, okay, well, there's a mom, there's no dad, and there's 4 little kids.
Yeah.
Or I love the one where my kid is an honor student at, this fancy schmancy private school.
Yeah.
So all they got to do is follow you home if they're looking. I'm pretty sure the criminals are looking, and they're the ones being the gray man right now, especially if they're trying to rob people.
Yeah, it's their job.
Like the Amazon packages, or this time of year, especially, or any time of year actually, but holidays and stuff, when people know that packages are going to be delivered, round the clock, 24 hours a day, they're just going up to people's houses and taking them right off the front porch.
Well, that's one of the things that I worry about. I have a nice big pantry, but I don't have a door on my pantry. So like even to have people over and things like that, now here's my pantry wide open. Everybody can see all the stuff I have in there, and I don't like that. Like, well, that's why I really want a door for it. And that's why I don't like to have a lot of people over all the time, because can I trust them? If they know that I have this stuff and something happens, are they going to be headed my way then? So if you are prepping and things like that, you want to make sure that your house looks normal, not like a hoarder house with like toilet paper aisles and, the 25-year food supply stacked everywhere and all that. Because they'll be like, wow, this is great. I know where I'm coming when stuff happens.
Right. Now, I think thankfully most people, at least in the United States today, they don't even pay attention, because like Dale said, that they're not listening because they're listening to reply. So
yeah, they're kind of oblivious.
Yeah, they're totally oblivious. They're in their phone, they're in their technology. So I would say probably 8 times out of 10, they're not really even going to be paying attention, which would be a good thing. Right. However, the 2 times out of that 10, you're going to have someone like us in your home who's going to be scoping out everything that you have in your home.
Right.
But even if those
I'd be showing it to you guys.
Right. That's different.
Even if those people aren't paying attention, if you make yourself rememberable, they're going to remember.
They're going to remember.
Yeah. Yep. So that's part of being the gray man is don't worry about it. And on the don't show everybody all that you have and all that, there's kind of a fine line with that too. You don't want to give away too much information and everything, but at the same time, this takes community. You're going to need help from other people. Yep. So. And where you draw that line, I guess is completely up to you. But and there are just going to be people showing up. Look on your telephone and your contact list. You got people that you work with that you don't really like, but they're maybe they've come over to maybe you invited them over. You had a big party or something. They know where you live. All these people that you don't really think about could be the ones knocking on your door. So.
Well, not even that, but like when we had the Oroville Dam incident. This last summer where the dam was going to collapse and they evacuated mad people out of that area. I have a lot of friends in that area. And was I going to close my doors to them? No. I invited them up. Please come to my house and, be safe kind of thing. So, I mean, if something happens like that where it starts staging out and you're like, come to my house and be safe, and then it goes into a long, long term, now you're stuck with those people,
Right.
So, I mean... and personally, like, I couldn't be like, oh, no, you're screwed, have fun. I mean, I'd be like, please come and, be safe kind of thing. So that's another fine line that you really have to.
Yeah. And I think it's dependent on the situation, because like one of Lisa's friends from work, and I won't say any names but somebody that you don't like very much, it showed up at the front door. It would really depend on the situation, whether you said, get out of here, or I guess you can stay for a day or two, right?
How long term do you think?
There's one person that I'm thinking of, and I'd be like, I'm sorry about your luck.
what are you doing here?
We're like, well, hey, you've got this all figured out. You've got everything figured out. Well, what are you doing at my door?
Yeah,
Right.
somebody like that where
Yep.
you've talked
Yeah.
about it or maybe mentioned some stuff and they're just like totally against it. And yeah, that would be the type of person that said, hey, that I would have to say, hey, you know what? I told you about this. I gave you the chance to do something. If you're going to come over, I told you. Lisa says this all the time. I told you if you have something to offer, welcome.
Yep.
But if you don't, you better work on it now or don't show up.
Yeah, but like I said, even in that situation, if it started with like this incident and then it escalated to that incident and then this one and then that one, and you've already invited them in because you did that at stage 1. So now, you're like, right? Yeah, you just throw them out then. Here's your Spam and your Cheetos. Have a great day,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, you're kind of asking for it if you do something like that. But at that point, it's kind of you play each scenario, each situation as it comes at you, because there's
no
if
answers.
it's something like that, there's probably a lot of other issues that you have as well.
Right? Yeah, you might need them to help.
Yeah, they could totally be a guard or something. Or do some menial labor.
Put them out on the front lines.
Yeah, something.
Operation Get Behind Bear Bait.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so what about like people's basic demeanor? So, when we're walking through areas, we should have the situational awareness. We should be aware of what's going on and taking account of, who's around, who's got weapons, that kind of thing. But you also don't want people to like notice that you're noticing kind of thing. So how do you think we can minimize that?
I think planning a couple steps ahead to where, say if you're walking somewhere, I think of sporting events and stuff like that. You don't just look at the parking lot or whatever. You're looking at what your next step is, or what's going on over here. Do I want to go this way or do I want to go that way? So if you're planning ahead, you're not going to all of a sudden find yourself, or hopefully you're not going to find yourself in a situation where you have to start doing that, quick judgment call type thing. So if you plan ahead as much as possible anyway, I think you could avoid that straight up confrontation. And also, maybe if the confrontation is unavoidable, if you're paying attention, you plan a little bit ahead. Maybe you've got a little bit of time to figure out what you're going to say. If this happens, if that happens, all this stuff, rather than.
Well, that's the best part, is playing the what if scenarios. That is my most favorite part. I mean, just like you said, walking into a sporting event or someplace where there's lots of people. I did this recently when I went
scanning for exits.
Well, yeah, look, you need to know where the exits are. Look at where most of the people are congregating, and just paying attention and saying, okay, what would I do if this happened? What would I do if this happened? So you're kind of, you're playing a game in your head, but in case something like that did happen, you've got an option.
Right.
And another thing that I like to do, and Dale does not like that I do this, is when we go somewhere, like if we go with a group or something, I'm always hanging back. I'm always at the back of the group. I'm always at the back of the line, because I'm taking in everything that's going on around me. And he's like, come on, we're going to be the last one. And I'm like, yeah, I know. That's kind of how I had it planned. He gets very frustrated with me, but I'm kind of, taking in my surroundings and looking at everything.
I just like to get through it. I don't like people. I don't like crowds. I don't like people. I don't like crowds. So I just want to go and get through it. It's not like I want to hurry up and get in there. It's like my head's about to explode. And with you sitting back here waiting and letting everybody pass us up is driving me bonkers.
I like to lead. So I'm always like, all right, I'm the front of the line. I'll set the pace. I'll keep us all moving, keep us all motivated kind of thing. And,
grab onto my shirt. Don't get lost.
But we were practicing how to stack up and enter houses and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'd just get behind Skip, because at least I have like Skip in front of me. And so he's teaching us. And no, I've got to lead because people can see over me because I'm the smallest. I'm like, wait a minute. This just total backfired on me big time. Like, how did I get put in front? So, yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to put the wall in front.
Exactly,
that makes a lot of sense.
Because nobody can see around him. But you put me in front, I can get down low. Everybody can still see around. Yeah.
Okay, so we have this planned out then. So Sara is going to be in the lead. Dale will be behind her, and I am going to be at the tail back, and I'm going to be watching everything that's going on with you guys.
The lead one is the one who always gets shot first.
Exactly. Why do you think I'm falling behind?
Yeah, thanks. So, yep, that did really work in my favor.
Keeping your head up and paying attention. I think that's the key thing to all this, because staying out of situations, that's the what you want to do. As far as that's one of the things that being a gray man means is if you don't have to be in some sort of confrontation, don't be in it. And the more unremarkable you can be, the less likely you're going to have to get in those situations. If you're planning ahead, you're looking 2 steps ahead, and you think, okay, this Yahoo's over here, or there's a group of militants over here, we're not going that way.
Right.
But if you're just walking with your head down or whatever, talking and jabbering, geez, I'm hungry, or I haven't eaten in 3 days, and all of a sudden you got some dude with a rifle in your face, what do you do then? So,
or like if the group of militants there and you have to pass by them, the planning ahead, knowing, okay, there's that hole over there, there's this, they're here, that's coming up on that side. And so while you're going by them, you don't have to be scanning and actively taking assessment, because you already did that before you hit there. I mean, you still are, but they're not going to look at you going, well, why are you looking around everywhere? What are you worried about, kind of thing, right? Right. Because you don't want them to remember you.
It's also about why they're there. Is it a checkpoint? Is it a gate into somewhere or something? So knowing why they're there could be, you just need to talk your way out of it. If it's someplace that's protected, or they're trying to get you inside of there, maybe you go around it.
So this really just ties in a huge with situational awareness. You're right. It's just, it's like the next step, because you are so situationally aware, you just blend.
Yeah. And I mean, this is something that you can practice and you can do right now. You don't need to wait for an apocalypse or, doomsday. You don't have to wait for any of that. This is something you can do every day right now, on your way to work, leaving your home. Go different directions. Pay attention to the people in the cars next to you. It's very entertaining. I do it on a daily basis.
Out there picking their nose and everything.
Oh, yeah. Doing their makeup, doing arts and crafts. It's like, wow, you get talented. But a lot of times they're oblivious to what's going on. Yeah. So if something does happen, at least you're going to be paying attention. But there's the coolest thing about being the gray man is there's no money involved. It's just what you've got on your shoulders, and you carry it with you wherever you go.
Mm-hmm. And you get into a habit when you start doing stuff like that. Now that way, when and if something does happen that requires you to, it's a life or death type thing. You're used to doing that stuff. You've kind of trained yourself a little bit. Now, granted, when it's game time, it's a little bit different than practicing.
Right. But the more you practice, the more you actually have the muscle memory and the brain memory to be able to overpower those emotions. That's the same reason why I spar. Because the more that you do it, the more you get your body used to being in those confrontational situations. So when the situation really does arise, of course, you're going to have more adrenaline, more fear, but your body at least knows to go, oh, nope, this is what I do to protect myself, right?
Right.
So it's the same kind of thought. The gray man stuff, a lot of it goes exactly against my grain as a person. I'm like so outgoing and, I'm not your average typical female, we'll say. So I have a tendency to really stand out and, I need to a lot of the times because I need to talk about my books. That's what I do. That's how I make money, So I got to do that. So it's like, oh man, I really do need to practice this stuff on what it's like to just kind of blend in instead of being like the outspoken, like, oh yeah, I remember her, I want to buy her books kind of thing, right?
Right. Yeah. But there's a time and place for everything. So yes, you can sell your books. Dale can go out and make funny pictures, and he can wear his pink running suit. I have no idea where I keep coming back to your pink job.
I don't know why you're trying to dress me up all the time.
All I can picture is like the bunny from the Christmas Story.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. But I mean, there's times and a place for everything. So yes, you do want to stand out in those times, but then you got to rein it back in.
Yeah.
And be invisible. Yeah. And that it's not hard to do. It's really easy to do. Just paying attention to people, it's actually pretty comical. because a lot of times they're not even paying attention to you, and you can see all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
So you're already invisible. So then you know you've done good.
Yep.
Yeah, and I was always the quiet person, the opposite of Sarah, basically, that took me, I need to get to know people, and then you kind of open up, joke around and stuff like that. But you go to parties and stuff like that when I was in high school, and you could always tell, oh, here comes that Sarah chick.
Right? Yeah.
You can hear her block down the road.
Well, see, and the thing is, I'm like an onion, right? So I can let people into a few layers, but only very few people get into the core, right? So, I mean, that I do keep a certain part of my interior very well guarded, and only a few people that I'm really loyal to actually get a chance in there, you know? So it is about, you know, the time and the place, the different levels, where are you allowing people to go and know and things like that. So, yeah.
It's about personality types. We're all different. You
Yep.
know, we all react. We've all grown up differently, reacted differently, been taught differently, all that stuff. So whatever your personality is, kind of embrace it. But you know, figure out in situations like this
How to blend
what
it.
you might need to change.
So one cool little trick that we picked up, because we did a lot of like urban tracking of each other and stuff like that in our survival classes. So one of my friends was the one we were trying to track, and she had both a reversible jacket, so she could change her jacket really quick, right? And you
That's
couldn't
a
follow
good
it.
idea.
And then she also had like a hat that was really collapsible that she could keep, so she could put the hat on or off, right? So she was in a store, and I'm waiting for her to come out. So she did the change, and she came out with a group of other people that she didn't know, right? But
Perfect.
it looked like she was part of that group. And I'm
Right.
like, oh man, I know she's got to be coming out by now. So I actually followed that group and watched her break away. That's the only reason why I knew it, because I knew she had to be coming out by now. But, you know, if you didn't know that, that's a great way to just blend in and get out of a situation quickly.
Yeah, if somebody's following you or somebody's tracking you,
Yep.
basically. Yeah.
Yeah, that just, you know, pop into a store and then look for a group of people that's leaving and just, hey, how's it going? You know, walk out with them. They might be
Yeah.
like, what's this weirdo doing? But hey, who
Yeah.
cares, right?
Perfect. Who cares?
yeah.
That could have just saved your life.
Yeah, as long
Yeah,
as
as
you're
long as
kinda
they
just,
don't react.
Yep.
If they don't react, as long as they wait until you're gone to start going, okay, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And then
Who
oh,
is
later.
that guy? Did anybody know them? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it usually takes people a few seconds to react in that situation, because you know someone comes up and just starts smiling or laughing with you, and you're just kind of like, what?
Yeah. You're just, okay, I'll smile and laugh with you, I guess. You know, I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you stuck away.
It's like, oh, sorry, you're not my mom.
Yeah. Oh, didn't I know you from high school? Oh, I
Yeah.
swore you were like in my chemistry class, or right? And so you can
Phil, right?
Yep.
Phil.
Yeah, Phil.
You changed, man.
Now, what would you do if Phil was actually the dude's name?
Then you just keep going with
You
the
just keep
conversation.
going with it. That's the gray man, right? You
Yep.
can just blend into any situation and just keep going.
Exactly.
So-
Yeah, just ask him, how's Betty doing? And he's like, who? You remember from fourth grade?
Remember, you like used to sit next to her in class. She had the blonde hair.
Yeah.
Right? Yep.
It's nice talking. Gotta go.
Yep. I'll see you later. And then they're already at their cars. You peel off someplace else, and hopefully, you know, that person's still sitting there watching the store, waiting for you to come out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that I actually have that scene later in my book too. Hint, hint.
Oh, there you
podcast
go.
listeners, just killed it.
Perfect. That's awesome.
Yeah, but I really like that one. I was like, that was so smart of her. Yeah.
That was
Yep.
slick. That's a bit. That's good. But see, that's her using her head and
Yeah.
you know, putting these things into practice. It's not rocket science. It's not brain surgery. It's just using your brain and thinking. You know, just think outside of the box, like we always say.
Yeah, and it's why practicing is so important, because
Yep.
in a situation like that, you don't want to be the person saying, "Oh, I didn't think about that."
Right.
You want
Right.
to be the person that once it's over, you're like, "Damn, I am some kind of badass."
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then when we were tracking her too, we had to be the gray men too, because we didn't want her to know where we were either.
Exactly.
So
Yeah,
we each had like quadrants of the little town, and we would stay in our quadrant and just wait for like that person to enter, and then write down like when they came in, what they did, you know, and then when they left, and that way somebody else was picking her up then at that point, you know. So
Yeah, and
it was interesting.
that's a good point, because not that we're looking to do anybody harm, like we'd be tracking people,
Right.
but say there's a group that's kind of in your way, in your route, and you want to make sure you know what they're doing until they're gone. So yeah, and you don't want to be noticed.
Yeah,
so
you have to deploy the military intelligence at that point, or you're going to leave yourself vulnerable.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then once they're out of the way, you're good to go. But
yeah,
so it doesn't necessarily mean you're out to go
No.
steal somebody's food or something like that.
Exactly. You might just be looking for the right window to get your group through peacefully so that nobody has to get hurt.
Yep, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah, so there's a lot that goes into different aspects of what it means to be the gray man. There's SHTF, there's, being not the aggressor, I suppose, being the one that's trying to get in, or the one that's trying to get out.
Yep. Yeah. And just gathering your information and doing that without them noticing that you're doing that.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And playing the role in an SHTF thing. You've got all the food, you've got all the supplies. That's great. We've done all our homework and stuff, but we can't just sit back and when something bad happens, and because if we're the ones that are never around, people are going to know that, hey, there's a reason why they're doing okay, but they never have to come out.
Right. Exactly.
So let's go find out what that is.
So I'm going to steal a piece from your show because Lisa said she wanted to do a little bit of tinfoil hat time on my show. And I like the idea of what you have to talk about. So why don't you go ahead and take over this part of the show, Lisa?
Oh, goody. This is my favorite part. And this is kind of what we were chatting about like before we got on the air.
Right.
So this is awesome. Thank you, Sara. So there's been so many like fires in California right now. And what I've been thinking about is and Dale asked me because I have my chemtrail theory.
Right.
But the
I know Brock hates it too.
Yeah. But it's like, seriously, guys, look above your head. Look up there. You can see the grids. You can see the little, these are not contrails.
There are times that we see a checker pattern in the sky, and other planes will fly by and not leave any trails at all.
Yep.
And then some days it'll be like a complete checkerboard. And I'm like, Brock, come on. Can you not look up there and tell me that is not a natural thing to be happening?
Exactly. That is not a condensation trail. Condensation trails evaporate rather quickly.
There's different types of engines. There's all sorts of different reasons.
Air pressure and stuff like that. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, we get it. We get it.
Crop dusters they leave chemtrails.
Yes, those are chemical trails. And
jetliners.
It's the same thing. It's not just jetliners. There's actually other types of airplanes that are leaving these chemtrails. But back to my point.
Corporate jets.
Possibly.
Diseasing everyone.
That's probably like the
so they
Microsoft jet.
Yep.
Yeah, they're going to take over the world anyway. But so some of the chemicals that they're spraying in the I guess it's considered our atmosphere because it's above our head. But some of them, they create these, patchwork grids that go across the sky. In the morning, you'll have the patchwork grid. By afternoon, you have, complete cloud cover, but it's chemical cover.
Right.
But all of that stuff has to come down. So eventually those chemicals do come down. And if you look at all of the humongous fires in California, and people had even mentioned, and that's what really started me thinking about it, how, yes, that there's, the winds are really, really intense too.
Right.
But a lot of these fires, and they do have the forests that are dying, but a lot of the fires are burning a lot hotter, and they look really, they're orange.
Oh yeah, they're moving so fast. Like I was saying before, it's like 2 seconds to move across a football field.
Yeah, and that's just incredibly fast. Mm-hmm. And it's just, I think they're spraying aluminum oxide or aluminum, some type of aluminum chemical product, and that's coming down, and then it's raining down onto all of the forests and the brush and the grasses, and it's more ignitable. It dries it out, and then it burns hotter.
I totally believe you.
You're saying that.
I believe a combo, because like I was saying,
I think it's all Trump support.
We have no, it's the anti-supporters down there. They're not
supporting
Trump. So they want him in the middle.
Yeah.
I just trying to blame it on Trump. Gotta blame everything.
So, like I was saying before, we have had a lot of years of drought, even though we had a good rain year last year. 1 year is not enough, though, to bring back the vast swaths of forests that are dead, that we lost. And so a lot of the areas are these really inaccessible mountainous areas where all the dead swaths are. So as soon as it picks up any of that, it's just ripping across. And then we haven't had any rain December, and we've had a lot of really bad winds that are fueling it. But if you look at like the Santa Rosa fire, you can't blame that on dead trees. I mean, that was through neighborhoods. That was like, that was serious, like post-apocalyptic disaster area.
And it's crazy at how fast it's traveling. It just seems, I mean, the sheer scale of these fires and how huge they are and how much land they cover. I mean, we get forest fires and wildfires out here, but I've never seen anything move that fast.
And in 1 year, we've had like 2 of almost the biggest fires ever in California history in 1 year.
My question is, if we go by your little theories here, Lisa, is why? What's the end game? Why are they doing it?
I don't know. Why are they manipulating DNA? Why are they making designer babies? Why are they making robots?
So there's a theory that that global warming is melting the ice sheets, right?
Oh yes.
So the planet is, if you go by that theory alone, it means the planet's just a big hunk of dead rock that's not alive and it's never going to change, which obviously I don't believe in, being that I wrote the Changing Earth series, right?
Right.
So the planet is this fluid place anyway, and we're still coming off of the last ice age where the ice sheets are melting. So I do believe that human activity has advanced the process faster than it would have been, but I believe that's the natural process of the planet anyway. I mean, as soon as you change just a little bit of human activity, it doesn't have that great of an effect on what the planet is naturally doing anyway.
Right.
So,
because I mean, with each passing year, we're going into like space. Our planet is on a path in space that we've never been before.
Right.
So, I mean, who's to say what's going to happen in the future?
And the planet is this living being. I mean, we've gone from Pangea to these individual continents and everything like that.
Right.
It's still changing. So
and it all happened without humans being here.
Exactly.
That we know of.
That we know of.
Well, the dinosaurs probably farted a lot, so they put a lot of methane into the
There's a little bit of methane on it.
Right? So, but, regardless, they say that the ice sheets melting, that it's going to cause more and more and more drought to happen to California because of the way it's affecting the jet stream. So we have these big high pressure systems that come in and just sit over the West Coast. And all of our jet stream gets kicked up to right about the top of Washington, bottom of Canada there. So they're getting slammed and we get nothing. And that's happened for a lot of years in a row. Last year was the first year we had an El Nino again, which brought us in a lot of rain. But the pattern has been not to see that. So that's a little bit scary. And
people are too smart for their own good.
Well,
and they can do all these hypotheticals, but you can't until you get a few thousand years of data.
Exactly.
How can you say this or that?
Yeah.
Well, and I think a lot of it that's a whole nother different tinfoil time topic is the weather engineering of that they're trying to harness the weather
when we don't even really understand it.
Weaponize.
Right. We're going to weaponize the weather. We don't know how it works, but we're going to see if we can.
Yeah. And California was all a desert anyway.
Right.
I mean, this whole, there was a reason that not a lot of people lived here. It was just, the different tribals, and they lived up in the mountains, and then they would go visit with the coast and stuff. Sacramento used to be all floodplains that would get flooded out for the springtime. That's why it made it fertile to grow. But down south and all of that area was all desert. And now you got Palm Springs down there. They're pumping the water in, and it's taken out of the aquifers, which is changing different things. I mean, so I don't know,
there's just a lot of variables.
There's a lot of variables.
And the one thing is Mother Nature's going to do what Mother Nature's going to do, whether we're here or we're not here, or we're there or we're not there.
Yeah.
Earthquakes are going to happen, hurricanes are going to happen, all that. Everything's eventually going to correct itself if we are making some sort of impact. So
one week we had over 100 minor earthquakes down in the Bay Area just recently. So that that were just the little, like 2.5.
There hasn't been anything major down there in a while, too, which is a little scary.
No, which is scary. Exactly. Like,
Yeah. Because what are you anticipating and what are you waiting for to happen?
Yeah, and then Chile and all that has been sliding so much. They've been having so much earthquake activity down there that it's got to be stressing up.
Right, right.
Yeah, so that could be really scary. I don't like to go to San Francisco ever.
Yeah, no kidding.
Not
you wanted to go there, Dale.
Not San Francisco, I know.
Oh, I thought you did.
No, I'd like to go to Waterworld or somewhere like that. Not San Francisco. I've been to San Francisco when I was a kid. It's foggy and stanky and
and dirty.
It wasn't.
It's like it's people dirt. It's not like country dirt. It's people dirt.
Oh,
yeah.
Like
I wasn't impressed.
No.
I went to Fisherman's Wharf and that was just
stinky.
I wasn't impressed.
Yep. Yeah. When you guys come, we'll have to do Tahoe. It's much more beautiful.
That'd be fun.
Yeah. It's much more beautiful. So. Well, awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on and talking about the Gray Man, doing a little tinfoil hat on the Changing Earth podcast. That's always fun.
Yeah.
And I even got to chime in on how ridiculous I think trails are. So
if Brock was here, he would have been right there with you, man. He would have been like,
it'd been 2-on-2 then instead of 2-on-1.
That's right. No, girl power.
Yep.
So, alrighty. Well, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Sarah.
All right. Thank you, Sarah. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks so much, Dale and Lisa, for coming back on the show. Always love having you here. Always good to have an excuse to talk. And, even though the recording that you hear here is only about 45 minutes long, all of my recordings with Dale and Lisa usually go about 2 hours, and we spend a lot of the afternoon together just chatting about different things and having a lot of fun. So always love having them on my show, and can't wait to do it again. Now, we had some great information regarding becoming the Gray Man, how you can do that, and how you can practically apply that if you're in a survival situation. So I've got lots of notes over on the blog. You can go check that out. And, we sucked up most of the show doing that. I just want to remind you that the audiobook giveaway is going on. You can get in on that anytime between now and February 13th. The winners will be announced on February 14th. 5 ways to enter that. Go ahead and check out all the ways to do that with the links over on my Facebook page. All you got to do is find the post, and I link you directly to every space that you need to go to enter all 5 ways. Just want to remind you as well that tickets are on sale for the Self-Reliance Expo down in Texas on March 23rd and 24th. Super excited to be doing that, so I can't wait to see you there. Also want to send a reminder that over at forwardobserver.com, Mike has issued me a code for all of my listeners to get a 10% discount when you sign up to any of his training programs or his daily newsletter that he does to keep everybody informed and up to speed on what today's interesting topics are and what kind of threats our country is facing at that moment. So it's a great little program. That's forwardobserver.com. Use the coupon code Sara, S-A-R-A. Thanks so much for joining me today. I can't wait to have you back next week. Until then, remember, dream, survive, thrive.
Thank you for joining Sara for this episode of the Changing Earth podcast. Don't forget to pick up your copy of Day After Disaster, Without Land, The Walls of Freedom, and Battle for the South at www.author.sarafhathaway.com. If you love Sara's books and this podcast, please head over to Amazon or iTunes and let everyone know by leaving a review.